I wasn't supposed to be home yet. The conference in Atlanta had been a mess of canceled panels and an overbooked hotel, and after my last meeting got cut short, I grabbed the earliest flight I could find. I didn't text Madeline. I figured a surprise would be nice. Something small. Something spontaneous to make her smile. I pulled into our driveway just past 6. The porch light wasn't on, but a faint glow seeped through the living room blinds. The house was quiet as I let myself in, the way it usually was when Madeline worked from home and wanted to stay in the zone. Her car was in the garage, her shoes by the door, everything in its place. Still, something felt off. I don't know how to explain it. Just a weird tightness in my gut, like the air had shifted. I dropped my bag near the coat rack and walked further in, heading toward the back of the house. I figured I'd find her curled up with a podcast, or maybe she was in the studio editing photos. That's when I heard it. The bathroom light was on. A soft hum of steam seeped through the door frame, curling into the hallway like fog. I was halfway past when I caught the sound. First a breathy laugh, then something lower, unmistakably masculine. A man's voice. It wasn't a podcast. Not the polished cadence or advertising lilt you'd expect. This was more casual, almost tender. Conversational. Familiar. I stopped. My hand went to the wall, steadying myself as I strained to listen. For a moment, all I could hear was the steady rush of water. Then her voice again. Madeline's voice. Lighter than usual, like she was trying not to laugh too hard. And then his again. Lower. Muffled. They were talking over each other, not loudly, but comfortably, like they'd done it before. I stood there, completely still. Not angry, not even confused yet, just alert. My brain started flipping through explanations. Maybe it was a video. Maybe she was playing a scene from one of those wellness series she likes. Something with breathing exercises and affirmations. But this didn't sound staged. There was no intro music. No cues. Just her voice. His voice. Int asterisk mate. Could have knocked. Could have barged in. But I didn't. Instead, I stepped back and leaned quietly against the opposite wall. My heart had started beating faster, though I wasn't sure why. I didn't think I was the jealous type. In 10 years together, I'd never had a reason to be. Madeline had always been independent, fiercely so, and I loved that about her. Trusted her. I still did, or at least I thought I did. I waited. The water turned off, and a few seconds later, the door creaked open. Steam rushed out in a wave, warm and damp, blurring the hallway lights. Madeline stepped into view in a white towel, her dark hair twisted up in a clip, skin flushed from the heat. She jumped when she saw me. "Evan," she said, a startled half-smile flickering across her face. "You scared me." "Didn't mean to," I said calmly. "Didn't know you were in the middle of something." She blinked quickly, then stepped out of the doorway. "I was just doing a guided relaxation thing. One of those new wellness series, Sound Therapy or something. There's this guy with a ridiculous voice, like, I don't know, melted chocolate or something." I totally zoned out. I nodded, trying to match her easy tone. "Sounded like a conversation." She tilted her head. "What?" "Just now. Thought I heard you talking to someone." Madeline laughed softly, a little too fast. "Oh no. I was probably repeating some of the affirmations. You know how they do that weird echo thing sometimes? It's supposed to rewire your subconscious or whatever, right?" She stepped closer and kissed my cheek, her skin still damp. "Why didn't you tell me you were coming home early?" "Figured I'd surprise you." "Well, consider me surprised," she said, pulling her towel a little tighter. "Give me 10 minutes and I'll be out." "Sure." She breezed past me toward the bedroom, leaving a faint trail of eucalyptus-scented steam in her wake. I watched her go, not saying anything. When the door clicked shut behind her, I stood there for a while longer, still in the hallway, listening. But the house had gone silent. Later that evening, over dinner, she acted completely normal. She asked about my trip, about the Atlanta weather, about the keynote speaker who had bailed last minute. She was animated, engaged, warm, everything she always was. But the whole time, I kept circling back to that moment in the hallway. The way her voice had changed. The exact tone of her laugh. Like it wasn't for me. And that man's voice. It's hard to explain how certain I was. Not about what it was, but about how it felt. It was like hearing a song you hadn't listened to in years and still knowing the lyrics by heart. There was history in that voice. Familiarity. Not from me. I didn't ask about it again. She didn't bring it up. But something had cracked open inside me that night. Just a little. Something small, something quiet. And I couldn't close it. After that night, something inside me wouldn't shut off. It wasn't like I stormed around the house looking for proof. I didn't go through her phone or demand answers. I just started paying attention. The kind of attention you don't realize you've stopped giving until it's too late. The kind that watches from a distance, quietly taking notes. At first, it was easy to dismiss. Madeline was just being Madeline. She'd always liked her alone time. The spa days, the yoga retreats, the way she guarded her personal space like sacred ground. I used to admire that about her, how she never apologized for needing time to breathe. But now that space didn't feel sacred. It felt curated. Like she was building a version of herself that I wasn't meant to see. I noticed she started wearing perfume to the gym. That was new. She never used to care about that stuff when she went to work out, said it just got in the way. But now? She'd spritz it right before leaving. And not the citrusy, casual body spray she used to keep in the car. This was something else. Something expensive. Something that lingered. I asked once if she'd changed her routine. She smiled and said she was leveling up her self-care. That it felt good to put effort into how she looked again. I nodded, told her it was great. What else was I supposed to say? The gym became a regular thing 4, sometimes 5 times a week. She'd go right after work and get home later and later. One night, I offered to go with her. Just casual, not pressing. She hesitated. Just for a second. But I caught it. Oh, babe, she said, it's not really your vibe. It's one of those boutique places with infrared saunas and chakra lighting. Honestly, you'd hate it. I mostly go for the mindfulness classes anyway. That might have made sense if she hadn't come home one night with the scent of men's cologne clinging to her jacket. Not mine. It was subtle, almost hidden beneath her usual rosewood scent. But it was there, sharp, musky, familiar in the worst way. I didn't say anything. Not then. I just hung up her coat and noted the date in a little notebook I'd started keeping in the drawer beneath my nightstand. A week later, she claimed she had a client dinner downtown. She'd had a few of those lately, last minute, urgent, always business. She looked good that night. Really good. Hair curled, lips glossed, heels I hadn't seen in months. She posed in the mirror for a full minute before she left, then blew me a kiss and vanished. I waited 30 minutes and checked the reservation app we both shared. Nothing. No bookings. No reminders. Nothing in her calendar. When she got home, I asked how it went. She smiled, slid off her heels, and gave me some vague story about a marketing exec who kept pitching the same idea 3 different ways. She said she was glad to be home. She always says that. Like a reflex. Then there was the spa trip. Her birthday had been coming up and I'd booked a weekend for us up in Ashland, a cozy B&B we'd visited once early in our relationship. I thought it might be nice to reconnect, do something old-fashioned. Quiet. She smiled when I told her, but her face didn't match her tone. Oh, Evan, that's so sweet, but the girls already booked a trip. I blinked. What trip? Just a weekend thing. They surprised me with it. You know how Allie is, she gets an idea and just goes for it. It's kind of a tradition now. It wasn't. I didn't argue. I said okay, maybe we could do something the weekend after. She promised we would. Later, I checked the confirmation email she forwarded me with the retreat info. There were 6 names listed. Garrett was one of them. Garrett. Her ex. I hadn't heard that name in years. They dated briefly in college, then again right after graduation. It didn't end well, or so she'd told me. He'd moved out of state. I'd never met him, only seen his name pop up once on an old photo she accidentally left on her phone. Back then, it didn't matter. We were new. We were unshakable. Now he was on the guest list for her birthday weekend. I didn't confront her. I just canceled our family vacation. We'd been planning to visit my parents in Vermont the following week, something she claimed she'd been looking forward to. I sent my mom a short apology, said something came up with work. Madeline didn't ask why we weren't going. She didn't even mention it. The day she left for the retreat, she kissed me goodbye like it was nothing. Like Garrett wasn't going to be there. Like I didn't know. I waited 3 hours after she left. Then I pulled up the resort's guest portal, entered her last name, and checked the itinerary. Her name was there. So was his. But then something happened I didn't expect. He didn't show up. Not a single check-in under Garrett's name. No photos. No social media tags. The resort had a shared album feature. People could upload pictures from their stay. I scrolled through them like a stalker, feeling sick. Madeline was in 2 of them. Group SH*TS. Smiling. But not with Garrett. I don't know if she noticed I was watching. If she realized I was starting to connect the dots. But when she came home, she was different. Lighter. Almost smug. She brought me a keychain from the gift shop. One of those tacky metal ones shaped like a lotus flower. I thanked her and added it to the bowl by the door. And then she went upstairs to shower. I stood in the living room for a long time that night, staring at the framed photo on the mantel, us 2 years ago in Big Sur. We were barefoot on the beach. She had her arm around me, her forehead against mine. It looked like love. I used to believe photos like that told the truth. Now I wasn't so sure. That night, I opened the notebook again and wrote just 2 words. Too many. Too many changes. Too many new routines. Too many things that didn't add up. I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. Not yet. I was watching. And if she thought I wouldn't start looking closer, then she never really knew me at all. It started with small absences. Not the dramatic kind, not the kind you'd spot if you weren't looking closely. It was the little things, the details people overlook when life is moving fast. I'd always known Madeline to be meticulous, almost obsessively so. Her routines were carved in stone, same mug every morning, same moisturizer in the top left drawer, same charger plugged into the kitchen outlet. But that Tuesday, those pieces were missing. She'd told me she had a photo shoot across town, something for a local lifestyle magazine, one of those puff pieces where everyone drinks green juice and pretends to laugh in matching yoga pants. She left that morning with a kiss on the cheek, wearing her favorite, creative but casual blazer. I watched her car back out of the driveway and disappear down the hill. I wasn't supposed to be home. My flight to Denver had been rescheduled, then canceled outright because of weather. I didn't tell her. I wanted to see what happened when the script changed. By noon, I was back at the house. Her makeup bag was gone. The charger gone. The overnight bag she kept in the closet for emergency shoots was missing too. The bathroom was too clean. Not in a tidy way, but in a someone erased themselves kind of way. I stood there for a long time, staring at the empty counter. Then I went to the office. Her laptop was still sitting on the desk. She had switched to using mine for work months ago, said it was faster, less glitchy, but something told me she hadn't retired hers completely. I opened it. No password prompt. Just a simple login and a glowing desktop wallpaper, some ethereal mountain scene, all mist and sunlight. I clicked through the documents folder. Most of it was blank, folders labeled, invoices, brand assets, mood boards. But one folder sat near the bottom, oddly named. Archive. It didn't belong. Madeline was a control freak with labels. Everything in her world was named clearly, dates, clients, tags. This folder was intentionally vague. I opened it. Inside were more folders. Dozens. All dated. Some going back nearly a year. The first thing I noticed was the structure. Each folder had a place, a theme. Palm Springs, Denver, Chicago, Sausalito. Places she'd supposedly traveled alone or with friends for work. Inside were images, *TS of messages, calendar *TS, even photo carousels from hotel rooms. There were pictures of bed sheets, room service trays, her legs tangled with someone else's. Garrett. He was in them. Not in all of them, but in enough. One showed them poolside, her in that green bikini I hadn't seen in over a year, him shirtless, sunglasses perched on his head. Another showed them in bed, smiling into the camera, half covered by the duvet. She was curled into his side. She looked happy. Familiar. An asterisk mate. I stared at the images for a long time, blinking slowly. No adrenaline. No rage. Just that sinking clarity, the kind that creeps in when your body finally catches up to what your instincts already knew. But it didn't stop there. The real damage was in the audio. Voice notes. Dozens. Labeled with dates, just like the folders. I clicked on one at random. I honestly think he's starting to notice. Evan's not stupid, you know? But the best part is, even if he did figure it out, he wouldn't do anything. He just folds. He disappears into himself. It's weirdly convenient. Her voice. Matter of fact. Slightly amused. Another note a few days later. Garrett, stop, no, stop. I'm serious. We can't keep pushing it. Evan already canceled that trip and I think he suspects something. But honestly, he'd never confront me. He doesn't have it in him. It's like living with a fog. I closed the file. My hand hovered over the trackpad. She had underestimated me. Badly. I spent the rest of the afternoon cataloging everything. I uploaded the files to a secure drive I'd already created weeks ago, just in case. I took *TS of folders, created backups, made copies to an external hard drive I stored in the garage, beneath the toolbox she never touched. This wasn't revenge. This was insurance. Because something had shifted in me, not just suspicion, but conviction. A quiet certainty that I needed to prepare for whatever storm was coming. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of knowing she broke me. I was going to get ready. That night, I didn't say a word. She came home later than usual, glowing from whatever story she'd rehearsed in the car. She was wearing the same jeans she always claimed were too tight for long drives. She poured a glass of wine, kicked off her shoes, and dropped her purse on the entryway table. "How was Denver?" she asked. I smiled. Delayed. She paused for a fraction of a second, just long enough for her lips to twitch. "You should have called. I would have picked you up." "I figured you'd be busy," I said. She raised her glass. "Always." We sat on the couch. She scrolled through her phone while I pretended to watch the news. Every once in a while, she'd glance at me, maybe to check if I was still playing the role. I was. I had to. Because if I'd said anything in that moment, I would have burned the whole thing down. And I wasn't ready to walk away yet. Not until I had everything lined up. Not until the locks were changed, the accounts secured, the legal pieces drawn and sealed. Not until she was exactly where she'd left me for months, unprepared. The next morning, I went into full lockdown mode. I started small. Reset passwords. Froze our joint accounts temporarily under the pretense of suspicious activity. I called the bank and asked to be notified of all card authorizations. I rerouted our mail to a private P.O. box, opened under my name alone. I flagged the titles to every shared asset, our car, our Silver Creek condo, our stocks. I wasn't erasing her. I was making space to exist without her. That afternoon, she texted me a photo of some latte art, her usual routine after a shoot. I zoomed in on the background. It was a hotel lobby. I recognized the pattern in the tiles. She'd taken me there on our 3rd anniversary. Now she was taking him. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. She thought I was sleeping through it all. Floating in the background, just like always. But she didn't understand what silence can become when you give it enough weight. When you sharpen it and turn it into a blade. And I was sharpening mine. Every hour. Every detail. Every lie. Soon she'd know. Not in a fight. Not in some screaming match or dramatic text thread. But in the way the ground would shift beneath her feet when she reached for something familiar and found it gone. I was done wondering. Done waiting. The confirmation had come. And now? Now, I was ready to move. She noticed the card decline first. It was subtle. We were at a coffee shop on a quiet Thursday morning, one of those trendy places that serve everything in recycled glass and play music no one knows the name of. She ordered her usual, some oat milk latte with lavender syrup, and pulled out the card we both used for everyday spending. The barista tapped the screen, smiled politely, then glanced up. "Sorry, this one's not going through." Madeline blinked. She tried again, brushing it off with a laugh. "Oh, it's probably just flagged. My husband travels a lot. The fraud alerts get weird sometimes." Still nothing. Her smile thinned. I stepped forward, already holding my own card. "Here," I said smoothly, offering it up. "Just use this." The barista took it, charged us, and moved on like it never happened. But I caught the way her fingers twitched slightly as she reached for the receipt. I caught the moment her jaw tensed before she forced another grin. We didn't talk about it. She didn't ask me later. But I knew she was going to. I counted on it. Because the card wasn't flagged. It was frozen. Locked under a spousal protection clause I'd quietly initiated 3 weeks earlier, right after I found the archive folder. It's a rarely used financial tool designed for when one partner needs to prevent the other from draining joint assets ahead of a separation. You have to file for it in advance. Provide intent. Just enough evidence to justify caution. Not action. Just foresight. And I had foresight in spades. That same day, Madeline tried to transfer funds from our joint savings to her personal account. The app gave her an error. She tried again. Error. A third time, and it locked her out entirely. She called the bank. They apologized, of course. Referred her to the internal claims department. Offered no timeline. By noon, she was pacing the living room. I sat at the kitchen table, sipping tea, skimming headlines like nothing had shifted. When she looked at me, I could feel the questions behind her eyes. But she didn't ask them. Not yet. Later that night, she texted me while I was upstairs. "Hey, are we having banking issues?" Casual. Friendly. As if we were on the same team. I didn't answer. At 1 a.m., I heard her in the office, clicking through tabs on her laptop, typing furiously. Her voice low and frustrated. She was trying to access investment portals, retirement balances, even the deed site for the condo. All of them returned the same thing, locked. She tried calling me again. I watched the screen light up from across the room. I let it ring. The next morning, her phone found me unreachable. Not powered off, just untraceable. I swapped out the SIM. Changed devices. New carrier. Burner line. The number she had was now a ghost. She texted, "Evan? Call me please." Then, "Seriously, this isn't funny." Then, "Did you cancel our accounts? What the hell is going on?" I didn't respond. I wasn't gone. But I was unreachable. That's a different kind of silence. One you can't talk over. One that presses back. She emailed me through 3 separate addresses. One polite, one angry, one emotional. I opened none of them. Just filed them all under a label I'd created, pre-dissolution contact. She was unraveling, but not because of rage. Not yet. She was unraveling because she didn't understand what was happening. And that was the point. Every transfer she attempted was met with a wall. Her auto payments bounced. Her Venmo locked. Her digital wallet emptied. She drove to the bank. They told her an internal freeze was placed due to pending legal review. Spousal security integrity, they called it. A technical term with teeth. She texted again. "Did you freeze our money? Are you serious right now?" No reply. I was already 2 steps ahead. I'd moved into the lake house the day before. Tahoe. Bought it years ago before the market took off, under a holding company she never knew existed. It was my quiet place. The kind of place you don't advertise. I kept it off Instagram. Off paper. Even off conversation. The utilities were under a trust name. Mail routed to a post office 40 miles away. The driveway was long enough to disappear down. Cell service was spotty, which worked in my favor. I didn't leave in anger. I left in preparation. Madeline, for all her cleverness, had never planned for a war she didn't see coming. She had trained herself to think I was soft, slow, passive, and maybe for a while I had been. But that wasn't who I was now. Because you don't need to be loud to be dangerous. You just need to be quiet long enough to draw the line. When she drove to the Silver Creek condo 2 days later, her keycard didn't work. She buzzed the front desk. The receptionist greeted her kindly, but told her the unit had been reassigned. The lease had been dissolved and repurchased under new terms. All her belongings were boxed and moved to storage. She could pick them up Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. Madeline called me 3 times in a row from the building lobby. The calls didn't come through. She left voicemails. I didn't listen to them. That same afternoon, she checked our shared calendar. My events were gone. All hers were still visible: booked classes, fake meetings, phantom retreats. But the reminders I used to add, our date nights, our dinners with friends, our family visits, they'd all been wiped clean. As if I'd never participated at all. She posted a story that night. Just a blank screen with a single word. Wow! I didn't watch it, but I knew it was there. By the end of the week, she started reaching out to people we both knew. Texting mutual friends. Commenting on their posts. Tagging me in old photos. Little digital breadcrumbs. Designed to look casual but laced with desperation. The silence wasn't working in her favor. Because slowly the truth had started to trickle out. I shared the files. Not publicly. Not with some vengeful caption or cryptic quote. Just selectively, thoughtfully, quietly. People she trusted saw everything. Her laugh in the voice notes. Her tone. The way she described me. The way she detailed the excuses she used, the alibis she manufactured. Friends who had once gushed over our anniversary posts now read the footnotes. And they pulled away. Madeline's calls went unanswered. The girls' group chat stopped buzzing. A mutual friend removed her from a private list. She posted less. Then not at all. She was beginning to understand. Not the betrayal part. That would come later. No, this was the realization of something simpler, colder. that she'd underestimated how quiet I could be, how strategic, how prepared. And now she was surrounded by noise she couldn't control. Questions, distance, rejection. The kind of noise that feels like silence when it comes from everyone at once. I watched it all unfold from my cabin by the lake. No TV. Just a fire and the wind and the sound of water pushing against the shore. My phone lit up that evening. It was her. Another number. Another message. You can't just disappear like this. You owe me a conversation. No, I didn't. Because for the first time in a long time, the narrative wasn't hers anymore. It was mine, and I wasn't wasting a single word of it. She didn't go home after Silver Creek. She tried calling first 5 times in under an hour. All from different numbers. One from her sister's, one from her old work phone, one I didn't even recognize. I blocked them all one by one. I wasn't angry. I wasn't being cruel. I was just done. That's what she never understood, how final silence can be when you've earned it. By the 3rd day, she drove to the unit again. This time she brought someone with her. I don't know who. A friend, maybe. Someone who still believed her version of the story. They waited outside the building for nearly half an hour before going inside. She didn't make a scene, not visibly. But I could picture it clearly, her explaining, rationalizing, rewriting the narrative with every breath. Because that's how she survived, by talking faster than the truth could catch her. But it had caught her now. The front desk clerk later told my attorney's office that she seemed surprised when informed the lease had been rewritten. The contract had been restructured under a different name. Everything in the apartment, her clothes, her books, the absurd number of hair products she stored under the sink had been packed into 6 large boxes stacked neatly in storage. A receipt was waiting for her. She never picked them up. Instead, she drove back to the city and started reaching out to people she thought were still hers. First it was her best friend, Jules. I got the message from Jules 2 hours later. Hey, so I got a weird call from Mads. She sounded off. I didn't say anything about what you sent me. Just letting you know. Then it was her cousin, then her coworker Nina, then 2 people I didn't even recognize by name. One of them I later found out had briefly dated Garrett last year. Madeline must have been trying to find a back channel to get ahead of the story. Too late. The people who had seen the *TS, the photos, the voice notes, they weren't coming back. I hadn't sent them with commentary. No dramatic message. No, look what she did. Just facts. Just timestamps. Just context. And that was enough. There was something uniquely sobering about hearing her own voice through someone else's phone. People knew what had happened. They had heard her laugh while describing me as predictable. They'd read the messages where she joked about dodging my questions. Where she mocked the way I asked about her day. Where she called me the world's most patient doormat. It wasn't the affair that made them vanish. It was the contempt. She reached out again that Sunday. This time through a friend I hadn't spoken to in months, one of those people who floats in and out of your life, never really present until something chaotic gives them an excuse to reconnect. Her message was short. She's spiraling. Said she doesn't know where to go. Are you sure you don't want to talk to her? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, I did. For years. She just never listened. There were no more messages after that. Not from the friend. Not from Madeline. That night, I looked through my phone and deleted every photo we'd ever taken together. Not out of anger. Just clarity. The images didn't hurt anymore. They felt distant. Like artifacts from a different life. A different version of me. And then, days later, I got the email. It wasn't from her directly. It came from a personal Gmail address, one I hadn't seen before. The subject line was simple, please read. I opened it. Inside was a letter. Long rambling. Disconnected in places. But the tone was unmistakable, this was her unraveling in real time. The message started with forced calm, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, then spiraled into pleas, half apologies, confused questions. She claimed she didn't know how things had gotten this bad. She said she had been lonely. She said she didn't mean to lose everything. She said she hadn't expected the silence to hurt more than the confrontation. But it was this line that stuck with me. I feel like I don't exist anymore. And in a strange way, she was right. Because without the people willing to vouch for her, to soften her story, to listen and nod and say, everyone makes mistakes, she wasn't the woman she used to be. She wasn't the admired friend. The loyal partner. The charming storyteller. She was a cautionary tale. A shared warning. I hadn't posted anything online. Hadn't changed my status. Hadn't told the story in public. But it was out there all the same. Not shouted. Just whispered. Quiet truth spreads fastest when no one tries to defend the lie. The friends she counted on stopped replying. The coworkers she leaned on backed away. One removed her from a shared Dropbox folder. Another lost the brand sponsorship they'd promised. A third left a comment under one of my old posts, "Proud of you." She never commented on it. Never liked it. Never said anything. Because she knew. The insulation she'd built around her life, layers of curated perception, charm, influence, had been torn open. And when people saw what was underneath, they didn't argue. They just left. And now? Now she was alone. I didn't take joy in that. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about seeing her punished. I wasn't sitting by the lake grinning like some cartoon villain. I just felt still. Like I could finally exhale. It wasn't that I wanted her to feel pain. I just needed her to feel the absence of power. The absence of control. The absence of me. And in that silence, I think she started to hear the truth for the first time, not from me, but from the world around her. The soft, collective closing of doors. The unread messages. The growing awareness that no one was rushing in to save her. Because no one could. She told one too many stories. Burned one too many bridges. And now? There was no one left to call. A week later, her name appeared on the docket at a downtown law firm. I was already seated when she walked in, dressed carefully, trying to look composed. She didn't speak. My lawyer slid a folder across the table, a full timeline of trips, transactions, messages. Every lie dated and documented. There were no outbursts. No raised voices. Just facts. The offer was simple. She could keep the Tulsa apartment, her car, some jewelry. But she'd forfeit all claims to my business, investments, and family property. In return, she would sign an NDA, no interviews, no memoirs, no internet think pieces. She hesitated, then signed. Not from anger, not defiance. From loss. I moved into the lake house full-time. That morning, my phone lit up, over 100 unread messages. Apologies, rationalizations, bargaining. I didn't open them. I blocked her number, archived the inbox, and stood outside with my coffee. The air was cold and still. No noise. No pleading. No spin. For the first time in a long time, there was no story being rewritten. Just silence. And this time it